Saturday night, which is the culmination of the pouring, have a pyrotechnics show that goes on for about an hour. Actually, this time it was an hour and a half, where the different teams put on pyrotechnic displays, and we have pyrotechnic dancers that come out and do entertaining things.
Well, the Art Center started this actually 6 years ago. Bernie Cerrano, the chair of the sculpture department, and I started brainstorming this. This was initially his idea because he's been involved in the iron arts for quite some time. So this was his idea to do this here at the Art Center.
We invite sculptors who work in cast iron to come to the Indianapolis Art Center. We fill the parking lot of the Art Center with sand, and these sculptors and their teams come with their own furnaces. All these furnaces are hand-built, and they are stationed out there in rows at safe distances from each other. And for 4 days, we make molds, prepare to pour for 2 of those days. People from as far away as Buffalo, New York, and North Carolina. Mostly, though, they were Midwestern, coming from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio.
We had probably about a dozen schools, colleges and universities from across the primarily Midwest, all with major sculpture programs participating in the pour. Eastern Carolina, University of Wisconsin, Art Institute of Chicago, just a range of schools.
And they really had a good time, or at least that's what they keep telling me on Facebook. The mold process is extremely complicated. I will just say that a sculpture is made, which is the pattern, and then the pattern is put out on the pouring floor, which is in the sand, and at the time that we pour into that mold, the metal is molten. The metal is at around 2600 when we put it in. We take it up to 2800 and we cool it off as it comes from the furnace to the mold. Now, how do we get it to that temperature? These are cupola furnaces, cupola being a chimney, and the cupolas require a lot of attention, unlike casting bronze or aluminum, where it's a crucible furnace and everything is in the pot or crucible when it goes into the furnace. In this case, everything is in the furnace, and the ladle, as we call it in iron, is external. So we put in charges of broken up iron, coke, and limestone, which is a flux to keep the flow of the thing going. When we get enough metal to temperature, which is done visually, I mean, we don't really put a pyrometer in it and take a look at it. We just look through some ports on the side and go, yep, looks like soup, and we dump it out. When it comes out in a spout, and the team has a ladle, which is on a shank. A shank is the steel part that's held by both people, one at each end, and they have to catch the 26 or 2700 degree metal as it comes spewing out. The ladle, the shank, and the metal, on average, are going to come to about 220 to 250 pounds combined. Then they take this hot mess over to the molds and pour it in. Let it cool, and with bonded sand molds, only an hour or 2, and they can open the molds. When they do, it'll still be extremely hot, and will probably stay hot for about 10 to 12 hours. When we come out in the morning, after we pour at midnight, it's very hot still.
We had some of the top iron artists in the country participating: Ken Payne, Chuck Krause, Danny Matheson, Eric Stevenson, just a great group of people.
Molds are broken open, sledgehammers are used, This is a pretty physical process. It's not really clean, it's very dirty, but it's a lot of fun.
All of these folks are just absolutely crazy passionate in love with iron.
As for individual artists, it's probably the only form of art production that involves a community. You can't do this by yourself. I can pour bronze by myself, I can weld all day by myself, I cannot pour iron without about 5 or 6 people because of how it comes out of the furnace, how hot it is, and the weight of the things. The process is the same today as it was in the 1700s. The furnaces are pretty much the same today, except in the 1700s they were using just natural air, and today or bellows at most, and today we use blower motors. So that makes a big difference to keep the fire as hot as possible. We poured approximately 13,000 to 14,000 pounds of iron. We use cast-off radiators, which each of the participants breaks up the amount he needs. Most of the molds are bonded sand, but there were a few ceramic shell molds. We have workshops.
Because our focus is education, and that's the whole point of doing this, is to get people educated and excited about a new medium that they've probably, in many cases, not had an opportunity to be exposed to before. It's a wonderful opportunity for our students locally, and for even the kids who are involved in the sculpture programs across the country, to get together and learn something new, to work with other artists that they've not had a chance to work with in the past. And they really push themselves. They've done some tremendous work while they're here. The studio is just a flurry of activity. They are fully engaged, and they don't get a lot of sleep while they're here, because they're either pouring iron, getting ready to pour iron, talking about pouring iron, reminiscing about the iron they've already poured. It's a tremendous event. It's 4 days of high anticipation as to what's going to come out of the pour, especially at the end of Saturday. Most of the pieces were poured Saturday during the course of the day and then evening. And with 9 furnaces on site, we had quite a bit of activity out there in the parking lot. As it turns out, because of the level of involvement that we've had from the other colleges and universities and artists, this has turned into one of the biggest iron casting symposiums in the world, actually.
Hey, it's very cool.